Am I wrong? Vegan Blackman says. Roomate abruptly backs out of roommate agreement. I spent half the money given to me already and refused to take it for her backing out suddenly. Roommate is threatening legal action. Who would win? So I've been looking to rent out one of my 2 apartment bedrooms. I've been talking to this woman via Room is on and off for a couple of months now. She said she had to go away for work, but she said she'll be back mid-October. Well, just this past Saturday, I got a text at 7:30 am with her saying she's back home 3 weeks early and was ready to move in. I charge $900 monthly, but since it's late in the month, she asked if she could only pay $400 for the remainder of Sept, and I was fine with that. No problem. So I scramble, doing emergency cleaning and whatnot. She's coming from New York, and she's never seen my place besides the pictures I provided. She arrives 3 hours later at around 11 am and comes in. I show her around the place in the room. She seems cool with it and puts the $400 cash in my hand. No contract or roommate agreement was made or signed, since it all happened so quickly that I didn't get a chance to print out a free roommate agreement provided by the Room's website. After paying me, she then said she was going to go out and get a bed and dresser for the room and come back to finish moving in. Perfect. So I continued cleaning up the room and around the place. And around 2 PM, I called her to touch base. All still seems good. She was getting her things, she said, from her ex-husband's house. I told her I got keys made and am on the way to get groceries and asked if she wanted anything. She said no. I say okay, see you later. So I grabbed groceries, which I didn't plan on getting, but I stocked up on food for me and her and got gas for my car. I used $200 of the $400 cash she gave me that I thought was rightfully mine to spend as I please, as the room was hers to do as she pleases. Okay, here's where the problem begins. So around 4:15 PM, she called me, saying her kids were begging her to stay at her ex-husband's house and her ex was away on vaca, blah blah, so she says. She says she's gonna stay in a room in her ex-husband's house that was offered to her for a couple weeks, then move in next month. I feel incredibly screwed over and inconvenienced. She asks if I can refund her the money or if I want to keep it and take it off of her rent next month when she moves in. I tell her I spent half of it already, but I can give her $200. She accepts that, and I Venmo her $200 immediately after hanging up. This was Saturday. I knew she was lying and wasn't really coming back, but I honestly spent half of the money she gave me, not thinking she would bail on the agreement hours later. Again, we even spoke midday, and she still gave me the misleading impression that she was moving in before I went grocery shopping. So now it's Tuesday, and she texts me in the am confirming what I already suspected. That she wasn't moving back, she's staying with Sat until December. She asks, in the next week or two, can I pay her back the other $200 from the $400 she gave me? I texted back, basically saying I honestly spent the other $200 that she paid me. $200 I wouldn't have spent had she not showed up to my place for such a sudden move in. I told her that giving her an additional $200 would come directly out of my pocket and I don't have it to give. And am not taking a hit because she decided to screw me over and bail on our agreement. Now this bee is accusing me of stealing her money. She threatened to take legal action if I don't pay her in 2 weeks. I argued my position in the fact that she screwed me over by bailing on our agreement after she paid me cash money and after I spent half of it under the misled impression that she was coming back to move in with her stuff. I told her to get you a lawyer and I'll get mine. She also threatened to hit me with attorney fees. What do you guys think? Am I wrong, or is she wrong? Who would win in court if we are to go there? Edit, the room was not on hold. She did say that she understands if I pursue other options. But I still held out for her on my own volition. Just to be clear, the money she gave was not a deposit. It was rent for the remainder of the month. There was no deposit. I said just pay me rent first thing when moving in and go month to month. I wanted to make moving in an easy process for both of us. I'm not here to burden or gouge anyone for money. I just wanted to rent my room out so I can have extra money to do what I want with. Snowwoods4839 says, she technically had you hold the room and you were not able to rent it out. There is no lease, so stop responding. Stunt Pennels says, for future reference, when someone gives you cash and then later texts you asking for their cash back, the proper answer is what cash? /r/unethical proliferatives. Pharmaceutical dealer says, it won't go to court for $200, you were fair. Start looking for another roommate, just don't let them move in until the end of the month, which is when she would have been with her initial deposit. Snowwoods4839 says, also, have them sign a lease. Friendlimum says, doesn't matter if you spent it or not. It's a deposit or hold money to have the room exclusively for her. You don't need to give it back. She cancelled and lost her money. She wasted your time when you could have found and had someone else living and paying for the room. She's manipulating you. Major red flags from her. Stop communicating with her and move on. Find someone else. She's not going to be a good roommate in the future. For goodness sake, don't do anything without a solid, written agreement next time, so all money transactions are understood, what the purpose is, and when it's to be paid, etc. Why'd you buy food for a roommate? It's their responsibility. Bloodlemon says, I'm an attorney who used to be an apartment building property manager. You should give the money back. Her changing her mind a couple of hours after giving you the prorated monthly rent, not a deposit, as some people posting here don't seem to understand, is something that happens sometimes, not an opportunity for the lessor to play the victim to justify keeping the money. You're spending half of it in the very short time between meeting her and her changing her mind has nothing to do with whether the money should be returned. Nothing you did, from cleaning to making a new key, was anything you wouldn't have to do anyway, no matter who was moving in. In the long run, there is no loss on your part. In the law, there is a concept known as unjust enrichment. Generally, unjust enrichment exists when party A profits from an agreement with party B, but party B does not receive the benefit of the agreement. Unjust enrichment can exist with or without a written contract. Perhaps more importantly, the $400 given in this case was explicitly for rent, not a deposit. If I were the potential roommate here, I would skip trying to sue for damages or whatever and simply report up to the local housing authority or even the Secretary of State, neither of which will be amused that OP is charging rent without providing that rent and then converting a rent payment to some sort of imaginary deposit to justify keeping the funds. Beyond all of that, it's just selfish, self-serving, and bad karma. You should give the money back. Low_chocolate_6580 says, you did emergency cleaning, spent time shopping for her, and you couldn't rent the room out to others because it was on hold for her. There is also no lease or contract. The money is yours. Sof_erk_2018 says, if I'm following the timeline, she'll let you know that morning she was coming to your place, arrived a few hours later, gave you $400, then tried to back out later that day. If all of this happened in a day period, you should reimburse her the full amount minus the cost of making a key. You're not out any expenses as a result of this agreement. You would have to clean your apartment before showing it to any prospective tenant. You still would have had that expense, even if she did not agree to move in. Your groceries and gas for your car have to do with your roommate. She told you she did not need groceries, so that purchase was only for your benefit. You spent the money on items you needed. Carlin Alcastine says, Op, I legitimately cannot believe you think there is any doubt you need to repay her. You accepted cash with no binding lease agreement that was mutually agreed to be a partial payment for next month's rent, went and bought groceries, something no landlord is expected to provide, when she explicitly told you she didn't need you to pick up anything, and gas for your own car, then also explicitly discussed how she wasn't asking you to hold the room if another tenant applied when plans changed. She didn't ask you to buy anything with the money. She didn't break a contract with a monetary penalty. She didn't end up renting the place, the purpose of the money you both agreed to. I understand why you are frustrated, but you can't steal money even from people who are jerks and inconvenienced you. Am I wrong? Laurie Anakin says, am I wrong for wanting to ban my sister's baby daddy from my house? My sister has been with this Ashat for almost 15 years. I hate him. I've tried to be kind and welcoming, but 15 years is getting exhausting. They now have 4 kids and I wasn't to be close to them and my sister, but this asshat is just getting too much. What do I do? This is a long one. The first time we met, he and my sister had 9-month-old twins. He made inappropriate comments to me. Most notable was I got with the wrong sister. Then at the twins' first birthday, he commented on my singular dimple and tried to touch it. He tried to poke my cheek, I backed off, and the look on my face was so obvious my sister that she had to laugh. Stating our face gives away our emotions. I moved away shortly after that and had minimal contact with him, but kept in contact with my sister and her kids. He was always an annoyance, but not one I had to have regular contact with. About 2 years ago I realized how much of a problem he is. I don't date a lot. So when I do it's someone important to me. We are a white family. The only reason I bring up the race is because I was dating a black man at the time. I was scared to introduce him to my family because of my sister's baby daddy. I had known about his racist comments in the past, but I guess I didn't want to cause drama and keep the peace. But now it was front and center. I had to tell my sister to not bring him around us. My boyfriend and I broke up, but this problem didn't go away. I now live closer to family and we are having some family gatherings at my house. Like I said, I want to be close to my nieces and nephew. I know from experience that kids in that type of environment need a place to get away and feel safe. I want that to be my home. We had a family gathering at my house and that includes food. Like always that means we made too much and people took leftovers. An important part of this is my brother's 16-year-old son was here with his new girlfriend. They said hello and then the young couple walked to the park near my house. No big deal, a young couple wants to have a nice summer walk and be alone. So they left before any food was done. Well, Ashat was making a plate to take home and was talking all the meat. My nephew and his girlfriend hadn't eaten yet, this Ashat was going to take the food home. This isn't the first time he has overindulged in taking leftovers. He always does this. We told him that 2 people hadn't eaten. He snapped back. They should have been here when it was served. I just instinctively said no, you just don't take as much. I don't mind taking leftovers, just be aware of others. Well, he got pissy and tossed all the meat back into the pan. I just don't want him around anymore. I can't tell my parents not to invite him to their house. It's their house and they can have who they want. But I don't want this racist, inconsiderate, petulant child in my house. What do I do? Too long, didn't read, sister is with a racist petulant man-child, and I don't want to be around him. However, I don't want to alienate her nor their kids. Reasonable Tour 446 says, freaking Ashats, you know what I'm saying? Nah, but in all seriousness, I think you should have a conversation with your sister and find a happy medium. That way, you can keep him away from you, but not ignore the sister and kids. You're not wrong. Lori Anakin says. She is fed up with his behavior too, but won't do anything to change his behavior. Shattered_KitKat says. Seriously, you and your sister need to have a long chat. If she is fed up, why is she still there? What does she need to break free? Is there any way you can help her? These are deep topics that need to be broached. She may very well want out, but may not see a way to escape. Please, have a long private discussion with her. Lamadrama 2021 says. You're not wrong, but you really don't have a choice. No man-child means no kids. Your sister chose to keep him. So you have to choose if you hate him more than you love your nibblings. Falerugula 2548 says. I've cut my sister off because of her unhealthy relationships. We're on polite terms now. There was an incident and I snapped. I was done being a part of her support system. It's hard to just pick your sister and kids without the shat. It is a very fine line to walk unless you're willing to cut your sister out too and completely rock the family boat. There's no simple answer and only you know how much you can take. Not wrong for your feelings though. Leatherlab 8120 says. But I don't want this racist, inconsiderate, petulant child in my house. But I don't want this racist, inconsiderate, petulant child in my parents' house. Fie, what do I do? Find another place to live. Actual Christmas tree says. NTA, he sounds terrible. Tell your sister you will only see her and her kids, not her partner. Imrindus says. Without even reading this, I'm gonna say, do what you want in / with your home, and the people who don't like it can eat a dick. Castellosaurios says. It's your house. Kick his ass out. Throwaway 01-01 says. #ASSHAT. Dark_Moonstruck says. Not wrong, and it's your house. You decide who is or isn't allowed in your space, and that's that. You don't want him there? Then he's not allowed there, period. Keeping the peace is the excuse I've heard so many times that allow abusers and monsters to get away with their actions. Frick keeping the peace. Call them out. Tell him, and anyone who might bring him over, you are not welcome at my home. I don't want someone like you who is racist, makes inappropriate comments, is selfish and throws tantrums like a mentally challenged 4-year-old when someone asks you to show the slightest consideration for anyone else in my house. You are not allowed to any gatherings here, and I don't want to be around you, or have anything to do with you. And leave it at that. He gets mad. Let him get mad and throw a tantrum, and prove what a piece of garbage he is. That's his problem, and the problem of anyone who tries to humor or coddle him. I hate the phrase keeping the peace. I've seen it used so many times, and it's always to excuse someone who has often done truly monstrous things or causes problems for everyone, just because people don't want to deal with the slight awkwardness that might come from telling them to get bent. The relief afterwards, when they are no longer there, and you don't have to worry about them throwing a fit or being an asshole, is so worth the moments of awkwardness that might arise from finally putting your foot down. Green Travel Badger says. Your house, your rules. Tell your sister he is not permitted on your property. Beth Rogers says. I don't have any answers other than one thing you said: you want your sister's kids to know your house is their safe space, and that is a wonderful idea. Just remember that the man you can't stand is their father, and they may think you hate a part of them too, because they are a part of him, and they can tell how you feel about him. I'm saying this because I'm dealing with a similar situation in my own family, and I'm trying to be very careful how I speak about the person in front of their child. I hope you're able to work this out. Lori Anakin says. Thank you all for the comments. I still don't know what is going to happen or what to do. However, just getting advice on what to avoid when I do address the situation is helpful. His behavior is a problem. I'm not the only one who is annoyed with his inconsiderate, childish, and disgusting behavior. And yes, there are circumstances in my sister's house I'm not privy to, so I can't expect her to change his behavior. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.